Hi, I'm Alina Wang and welcome to Discovering China. We have an action-packed show lined up for you today. We look at the story of Cai Wenji of the Han Dynasty and the Song Dynasty, a period of flourishing art and culture. This week, Margaret Trey introduces you to another famous woman from ancient Chinese history, this time from the worlds of literary arts and music. Cai Wenji was a talented and famous poet and composer from the late Han Dynasty. Born into an intellectual family, her well-known poet and calligrapher father wielded a huge influence in her life.
A talented and famous poet, Cai Wenji was born around AD 177 in Qianliu in present-day Kaifeng, Henan Province. Cai was born into an intellectual family. She was the only child and daughter of Cai Yong, a Han minister, a well-known writer, poet, and master calligrapher. In ancient China, not many women had the opportunity of learning to read and write unless they were daughters of high officials and nobles. Cai was born into such a family. It was thus natural for her father to pass on his knowledge and the art of calligraphy to his only child. Cai grew up influenced by her environment. She studied and immersed herself in literature and the arts. She was accomplished in calligraphy, history, literature, and music. Cai's life was marked with tragedies. At 15, Cai married her first husband, who died shortly after the wedding. One story has it that the emperor, unimpressed with her father's warnings about the future of the Han when the Han Dynasty was on the verge of collapse, had sent Cai Yong back to his house outside of Chang'an City. When the Xiongnu tribe attacked Chang'an, Cai was kidnapped and forced to marry a Xiongnu chieftain. While in captivity, she composed her famous piece, the 18 Lamentation, that was performed on the guqin, or Chinese zither. 12 years later, the Han general Cao Cao, who was a friend of her father, paid 1,000 pieces of gold and jade to negotiate her return. Upon her return to China, Cai married her third spouse. She then fulfilled her father's wish by finishing the compilation of the history of the later Han Dynasty. According to one story, Cai helped to reclaim a portion of her father's writings that were destroyed during the war-torn era. Cai was able to recite from memory about 400 of the 4,000 of her father's lost works. Cai continued to compose poetry, but her poems were sorrowful, nostalgic, and poignant, mostly dwelling on the misfortunes in her life. In the 5-character Poem of Sorrow and Anger, she wrote, "My dwelling is often covered by frost and snow. The foreign winds bring again spring and summer. They gently blow into my robes and chillingly shrill into my ear. Emotion stirred, I think of my parents, whilst I draw a long sigh of endless sorrows. Whenever guests visit from afar, I would often make joy of their tidings. I lost no time in throwing eager questions, only to find that the guests were not from my hometown." Like father, like daughter, Cai was also an accomplished calligrapher. Many of her compositions were extolled along with her father's works of art. Her legacy has been preserved in an ancient Chinese painting from the Jin Dynasty, in modern Chinese play, Beijing opera, and even in the Dynasty Warriors and Romance of the Three Kingdoms video games.
Breeds sadness, doesn't it?
Now Ben Hedges tells the story of a period where Chinese arts and culture flourished, despite the fact that Chinese civilization was under constant threat of annihilation by invaders from the north. This is the Song Dynasty.
After the collapse of the Tang Dynasty, over 50 years of chaos followed, until a military general named Zhao Kuan-yin founded the Song Dynasty, reigning as Emperor Taizu. The Song Dynasty started in the year 960 AD and lasted for over 300 years. It can be split into 2 periods, the Northern Song, starting in the year 960, and then after the north was invaded by Jurchen tribes in the year 1127 AD, the Southern Song. When Emperor Taizu came to power, he expanded the civil service examination system and oversaw a project to map the entire empire. The Song saw the revival of Confucianism and a greater prominence of the scholar official class. But the Song wasn't as strong militarily as its Tang Dynasty predecessor. It couldn't establish itself as the dominant power in Asia. Thus, the Northern Song period was marked by frequent battles with neighboring kingdoms. These would eventually culminate in the Jurchen tribe to the north invading the Song and conquering the capital Kaifeng in the year 1127 AD. They then set up the Jin Dynasty in the north of China. So the Song Dynasty moved south, and despite losing a large amount of territory, the Southern Song period was one of prosperity, with flourishing art and culture, as well as technological advancements. During the Song, the government started to grant farmers ownership of land, which led to a huge increase in rice production. The economy started to change from a purely agricultural economy to a commercial one, with peasants selling their surpluses to buy a wide range of goods, such as tea, coal, oil, and wine. With the growth in the economy, so grew the population, hitting 100 million by the year 1100 AD. 3 of China's 4 great inventions originate from the Song Dynasty, namely printing, the magnetic compass, and gunpowder. The Song government used its printing techniques for currency production, and in the 12th century became the first government in the world to print paper money. The Song was also the first Chinese dynasty to establish a permanent standing navy, to safeguard foreign trade and guard against invasions from the north. The ships used the newly invented compass to navigate and used gunpowder in their weaponry. Gunpowder was first employed in bombs delivered from ships via catapult. The Song used these tactics to successfully defend their territory against Jurchen invasion on the Yangtze River in the year 1161 AD. A Song force of only 3,000 men on 120 ships defeated a Jurchen force of 70,000 on over 600 ships. Yet these technological advancements did not allow the Song to take back the north. This was due to the rise of several powerful states in the region, and the fact that enemies often managed to kidnap Song craftsmen who were then forced to manufacture the technology for the enemy. This lack of military power was alarming to Song scholars and officials, who felt a need to preserve Chinese culture from potential extinction, and thus started to reject any foreign influences. A revival of Confucianism was seen as the best way to achieve this. When the likelihood of regaining the north seemed remote, the Southern Song scholars gave a lot of attention to how Confucian principles could be applied to society rather than to politics. They proposed ways to build a better society, focusing on families and communities. The most famous of the Song Dynasty Confucian scholars was a man named Zhu Xi, who would go on to leave a legacy lasting 700 years. Like the scholars, Song painters also mimicked the mood of the time in their artworks. Northern Song painters like Fan Quan painted huge, grand landscape scenes. Whereas after the loss of the north, paintings became more intimate, focusing on family or village scenes within the natural environment. Scenes would often be in one corner, with a large empty expanse occupying much of the painting. This empty expanse may have alluded to a feeling of emptiness after losing the north, and the feeling that matters beyond the immediate local society were beyond control of the painter. And indeed, the fate of the dynasty was even beyond the control of Song officials and the emperor, for a new power was rising in Asia: the Mongols. Led by Genghis Khan, the Mongols started wars with the Xia and Jin dynasties to the north of the Song in 1205 AD. Initially, the Song formed an alliance and aided the Mongols in invading the Jin in 1232 AD. After 2 years of war, the Jin fell. Yet when Song forces took back their old capital Kaifeng, as well as Chang'an and Luoyang, the Mongols broke the alliance. The Mongols, led by Kublai Khan, started their assault on the Song, and in 1271 AD, Kublai declared the creation of a new dynasty, the Yuan. The last strongholds of Song resistance were crushed in 1279 AD, and the dynasty came to an end. Although the Song was destroyed, the dynasty succeeded in protecting Chinese culture, and particularly Confucian values. The scholar Zhu Xi's commentaries on the Confucian classics form the basis of the imperial examinations from not long after the Song Dynasty ended until their abolishment in 1905. Song Dynasty landscape paintings are now displayed in museums across the world, and the free inventions of printing, the compass, and gunpowder, whether for better or worse, have played a large role in shaping the world as we know it today. Chinese culture survived through the period of Mongol rule and went on to flourish in the great Ming and Qing dynasties that followed.
Thank you for watching Discovering China. Don't forget you can subscribe to our weekly show in HD on YouTube and like us on Facebook. We'll see you next week.